Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for joining us for Stars of Franchising.
Get ready for a roller coaster ride through the world of franchising as we bring you the best stories of inspiration and entrepreneurial grit and turning dreams into franchise realities.
That's right, Vinny. From emerging to global brands, we'll chat with the genius minds behind the magic. All brought to you by the Tariq Farid Franchise Institute at Babson College. I'm Ab.
And I'm Vini. Now, buckle up for some serious inspiration. Today we have a great guest, Fernando López de Castilla Elías, joining us from Madrid. Thank you, Fernando, and welcome to this podcast. It's so great to have you. I'm joined here today by my colleague, Ab Ingram, and we're going to be together having this conversation with you about your experiences and your insights in order to make our audience, again, to learn more about what franchising is all about. So, Fernando, welcome.
Welcome, Fernando.
Thank you very much for the invitation, dear Vinny and Ab. Nice being with you today.
Thank you, Fernando. And then typically we want to start by asking you just to tell us your story, starting with what's the why behind what you do?
What, I'm sorry?
Why do you do what you do? What have been the why behind things that you're doing? You've done great in franchising. You've helped many franchise businesses to thrive in different parts of the world. Why? What explains the why behind what you do?
Well, that's a very big question to start with, but I appreciate it. I mean, you know what? What I'm gonna say is gonna sound maybe like a cliche or cheesy, but for me, it's all about opportunity, Vinny. I believe in opportunity. I think that the word opportunity, is so misused today, so undervalued. But I think even one opportunity can change everything. An opportunity can change the future, but also the past. And for me, franchising is about opportunity.
That's great. Thank you, Fernando. Ab?
It is so true, and welcome, and it's great to see you, Fernando. For background for our guests, we met in Saudi Arabia at an amazing international conference on entrepreneurship, BIBA 24, that had several doors of entry for opportunity, as you list, and one was franchising. So it started with a conversation, and Vinny and I were so impressed with what you've done in franchising that we knew we had to meet you and collaborate. So really, really grateful for that. For our guests, maybe if you can give a little bit of background on your company, GNF Worldwide, and maybe the inspiration to starting it, your team, and what you're doing, and then we can kind of get into some specifics around international franchising and more. How's that?
Yes, of course, with pleasure. I mean, just very, very quick. I founded GNF Worldwide almost 15 years ago already. It has been, quite a journey. Today we are in 10 countries. We have 10 offices internationally, from Miami to Shanghai. Within what you do, in what we do, we are today by far the largest globally. And but still, we are in diapers. The industry is in diapers. So I think, I mean, it's all for the taking.
Well, let me follow up on that. Talk to us about the stage and the diapers. Where's the opportunity? We here in North America, you see, U.S. brands, and then for folks who are, when we look at international expansion, some have done it well, others haven't. Love to get your perspective and why you see it as such a road full of opportunity with where franchising is internationally, from your perspective.
Right. Up. I mean, and for the audience to understand why I say what I say is a little bit of what we do. So basically, we do three things. We just do three things, all within the franchising space. What we call consulting, that's franchise development. We help brands structure their franchise system professionally, their vehicle, so to speak. Then what we call brokerage is not really brokerage, it's a franchise sales outsourcing process. So we basically become the international or global arm of many, many brands, from franchise startups to some of the biggest brands in the world. and what we call capital, that's investment banking related to the franchising world, M&A and capital raising. That being said, I truly believe the whole industry is in diapers, no matter if we're talking about the US or Saudi Arabia. And let me tell you why. Whenever someone, even you or me or myself, or just anybody thinks in franchising, they typically think about McDonald's, right? And nothing wrong with that, okay? But even in the States, which is of course the most developed franchise country in the world, I mean, the US of course, and Canada is actually the second most developed country in terms of franchising. Even in those countries, I mean, in the US alone, I mean, there are about 3,500, maybe 4,000 franchise or brands, and less maybe than 100 have gone global.
Wow.
I mean, not even one. So even in the States, which is the mecca of franchising, of course, when you truly see the impact that franchising has been in the States is great, but globally it's nothing. So I really believe franchising members everywhere in the world.
Fascinating.
Now, one interesting thing, Fernando, that you see oftentimes, you see in many parts of the world, American brands, big brands, franchise brands, going to different countries. People, investors, maybe or entrepreneurs in different countries, bringing American brands to their home country. Now, in your case, you've been able to actually do what I would call South-South movement. In other words, taking something like Pollo Campero in Guatemala and taking it to Peru, for instance. Those type of how much of those are you doing? Have you seen? And what is the difference between going from a Latin American country to another Latin American country as opposed to going from a place like the US to another country? So what have you seen in that space?
So actually, we haven't worked with Pollo Campero, actually, no, but we have worked each year, Vini, each year we work with about 200 brands globally. Talking about the chicken space, we have worked with a lot of chicken brands. Actually, one of the great deals we did last year within the chicken space, we actually closed a master deal for a very nice Canadian brand. The brand is Mary Brown Chicken. It's the largest fried chicken brand in Canada. We have over 400 units in Canada. And we closed their first international deal in Mexico. It was a 65 unit deal.
Wow.
I mean, we have worked with brands, from franchise startups and mom and pops up to 7-Eleven,
And then so now you've done about 3,000 more or less deals. I mean, franchise deals. Since in the last 15 years. Now, in about 40 countries, correct?
We have done maybe more than 10,000 deals.
Oh, really? In that case, if you look back, what are the greatest insights you would like to share with our audience from these past 15 years, all these thousands of deals you have done internationally? If you want to summarize it into, hey, here are the key highlights, what will those be?
Okay, that's a big question again. So I'll tell you, please, if I bore you guys, just
Not at all.
me, okay?
No, bring it on.
I mean, first of all, franchising is about people. I mean, anybody that doesn't understand that better not to get into franchising, because franchising is not about agreements or papers or processes or operation manual. That's a myth. Franchising is about people. That's one thing. Then I think one thing that actually I speak about it in my books, but I would love to keep speaking it in my future books as well, is the concept of culture. I mean, amazing that being franchising by nature, a global industry, a global concept. Very few people, if anyone, talks about intercultural intelligence, intercultural negotiation, and really understand what culture is. So, I mean, an American brand going, to Saudi or to Kuwait or to Mexico or to Spain, maybe more challenging in terms of culture could be going from New York to Miami.
Right.
I mean, what I'm trying is culture. Very few people in the industry, I think, understand truly what culture is. And franchise, by nature, is an intercultural movement. Okay? What else, guys? Oh, I mean, what else? What else I can tell you?
Well, let me follow on that. I think you're so right. It's people, it's relationships. That franchisor franchisee relationship is so critical, as you know, Fernando, by experience. How about we talk a little bit about that? What have the you're matchmaking, right? You're finding partners that can bring the local entrepreneurial intensity, as Steve Spinelli describes in his book, to a brand that may not know the culture. What's worked, and how do you advise international brands? Are you looking for experienced partners in the country? What advice do you give them, and what mistakes have some brands made where they didn't really understand that and develop a good partner?
I think that's also a very big subject. I mean, I think first of all, the most important thing for a brand, and if the brand has one unit or 10,000, for us, it doesn't matter. But because the challenges at the end of the day are the same. I mean, okay, when a brand thinks about growing, especially in cross border deals, in scaling internationally, I mean, the challenges are the same if you go to a neighboring country or you have 5 units or
Yeah.
5,000 units. You have maybe more resources if you are bigger, of course, but the challenges are exactly the same. So I think that the first thing that a franchisor company should do is really understand their why. And maybe this sounds a cliche as well, but growing just for the sake of growing, I think that's a very bad idea. Very, very bad idea. Bless you.
Thank you.
So growing for the just for the sake of growing, that's a very, very bad idea. I think it's important to understand why the company wants to grow, and secondly, also understand what kind of partner you want. I mean, I still hear a lot, brands that want, the franchisee with a lot of money or the very big group, and why? I mean, if you are a small franchisor, you don't want the Alshayas or the Alseas of the world. You don't, because they are gonna you like a bug. So you don't want guys if you are a little guy. So if you are a franchise, you have a franchise system that requires a lot of complexity and infrastructure. You don't want the billionaires. I mean, that the son of a billionaire or the son of a sheikh.
Yeah.
If all they have is just money. So I mean, there is a lot to discuss.
Those are great insights, and that what you point to, right? The brands you met or the companies you mentioned, the big developers. Your point is so spot on, which is a young brand will be one of many and won't get that attention they need. And then the second point, which is brilliant, right? Smart money versus dumb money. And you need an operating partner. So love that. Let me piggyback a little bit on that. And so I'm a potential franchisee in one of these markets that you're helping make that match. You alluded to a few things. What should they look for in a franchisor partner as they evaluate becoming a Z from that perspective? Since you've seen a lot of franchisees that have probably worked and not worked, but what should they look for in a franchisor?
That's a very, very, very interesting point. Two ideas there. First of all, when I speak, I usually talk about this paradigm of the brand versus the business model, right? So because franchise is so magic, right? The big brand, the famous brands, blah blah blah, and people get in love with big brands. And I always tell them the same thing: always prioritize the business model versus the brand equity. I would prefer 100% every time a great business model over a fancy brand. So for me, the first thing is prioritize the business model and the people behind that model, not how famous or how fancy or how trendy the brand is. That's one thing. And the other thing is something that I also encourage, especially first-time franchisees, is not to be scared in betting or to be part of a small franchisor network. Let me tell you why. Because and I usually make this example, right? Like, for example, I have one daughter, one little daughter, right? We are actually with my wife, Sandra, we are looking right now, for our second son or daughter, but the first one always gets the most attention, right? So
That's a great
and we
analogy.
and we sometimes, and we usually, I mean, we the older ones come out the best, and that's a joke. That doesn't
Right.
usually happen. But what I'm trying to say is that don't be afraid to be the first franchisee of someone, because you are gonna get
Yeah,
100%
that's
of the attention.
Okay. Now, Fernando, just to elaborate more on that, I know one of the three legs of your business is trying to get brands to be franchise ready. And when you do that, what have you seen to be the major pitfalls or maybe misunderstanding of brands who want to grow through the franchise model and they think they are ready, they think they can do it? And what have you seen? What have you noticed that you could share with our audience?
I mean, thank God I'm not, I mean, mentioning specific brands, but usually what happens is if the brand is too little, they usually overestimate how good they are,
yeah.
because they are very well known. Let's say in Madrid, they think that they are gonna go to Dallas, or
Right.
and somebody's gonna throw the red carpet because they are so great in Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my friend, the world is much bigger than you believe, right? And
Right.
the concept is unique nowadays. I hear all yeah, I have this smash burger concept, and we are unique. No, you are not.
Right.
Nothing is unique anymore. So I think that you have to be humble as a franchisor in order to have success. And on the other hand, also, I think that big franchisors, um, um, big franchisors can also be. I don't want to say toxic, but I think that it's not easy for someone, even for the little guys, to understand the reality of their possibilities.
Yeah. Oh,
But
that's so insightful.
but when they knock on your doors and say, "Hey, we are X, we would like to expand through the franchise model," uh, take us through, walk us through what's the process of you telling them, advising them, okay, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this in order to be franchise ready. What does it mean to be franchise ready? What does it mean to be ready to leverage the franchising model as a
The three things I always say, Vinny, and my team usually says me shh, but I know it's not gonna be quick, it's not gonna be fast. I'm sorry, it's not gonna be quick, it's not gonna be easy, it's not gonna be cheap. If you are looking for a quick, easy,
Fix.
cheap way to grow, we are not. I mean, we are not the right people to help you. This is a long, hard, and expensive process. Growing is not cheap.
That's so true, and
That's true.
we see that and hear those misconceptions, right? Oh, it's it's we can scale. We'll sell 100 units, and well, even if you sell 100, as you know better, Fernando, than we do, you got to support those 100 units as a franchisor, and that costs money and burns cash. So great advice. For that, and I like your words around not being afraid. To to be the first when you get that attention. Now I'm the youngest, so I would take the ulterior that we improve the older ones. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. But one of the things we'd like to talk and get your take on is some of the current trends out there in the world and in franchising. Comes up a lot, right? Technology, and some can argue that restaurant franchising, others has been behind on technology, maybe not. But what are you seeing on the technology front, and not necessarily artificial intelligence, AI, but just in general, and many trends that we should and our audience should be aware of you're seeing in the franchise landscape?
I mean, of course, AI, as you say, I think is going to change everything. But the more that something changes, they still the same.
Yeah.
I mean, end of the day, I mean, a brick and mortar is brick and mortar. I mean, franchising, especially if you talk about F&B concepts or retail concepts, no matter the technology around it, still, I mean, it's a brick and mortar
Yeah.
industry. So I think I like the concept of being technology enabled,
Yeah.
So everyone's looking, yeah, we are tech based, tech based. No, you are not tech based. You are not tech based. You are tech enabled, which is a whole different thing.
Love it. Love it.
Wow.
You're right. It comes down to the four-wall unit economics, right? In your service delivery system. And in the unit, does the unit provide value to its customers and
Absolutely.
experience,
Absolutely.
regardless of the technology? Love it. Vinny, what do you got?
Yeah, so Fernando, if you there have been some times, I guess, when it's not just people knocking on your doors and asking you, hey, GNF, can you help us to be franchise ready? Are there circumstances where you actually go and meet a brand and tell them, you know what, I think you might be ripe, or you might be a good candidate for franchising? If yes, what is it that you look out for in brands before you knock on their doors and say, you know what, have you considered going the franchise model?
Okay, I mean, I have to say I am a believer in franchising. Okay, so I do believe that everything can be franchised. Maybe not everything should be franchised, but I truly believe
Yeah.
everything can be franchised. That being said, a lot of people, of course, confuse the franchisability of the business with the scalability of a business, right? So, for example, we work with a lot of Michelin star restaurants, right? And it's funny, because when we work, with Michelin star restaurants, or even the little artisan bakery or whatever, sometimes they say, yeah, Fernando, I don't want to be McDonald's. First of all, I tell you, you wish. Don't give me that. You wish to be McDonald's. You are not, and sorry, you don't have that risk. No worry, you are not that good. Don't worry. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is that franchising is not about high scalability. It's about replicating a successful business
Yeah.
model, right? So you can have one unit per capital city in first world countries, and you can still be a very successful franchise network. So when a brand asks me if they are, how they can be franchise ready, it's a long process. Our franchise development program takes 6 and 9 months. If you want to do it in 3 months, it's not with us. We do franchising. We don't do magic. So it's a 6 to 9 month process. And then there aren't guarantees, because at the end of the day, the market is the judge.
Okay. But Fernando, have you knocked on people's doors? They didn't come to you, but you actually approached them. Have there been instances where you approach a brand and say, you know what, can we make you? Are you open to us making you franchise ready?
My teams, Vini, knock on doors of brands every single day in 10 countries around the world, every single day.
Oh, really? Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I love your idea of saying, you know what, franchising, which is a misconception, is about restaurants, food. And you say, no, franchising is more than McDonald's and tapas.
Yes.
I love the way you put it there, and it's interesting to see that your team actually go out trying to sell this model.
Yeah.
You're trying to educate people. It's partly education as well. And in that mode of education, what exactly do you do to really get people not only understand what franchising is all about and get fired up to maybe try it someday?
Vini, I always say that nobody buys what they don't understand.
Yeah.
So nobody would get into franchising if they truly don't understand the model. And if they get into franchising without understanding the model, that's gonna be a freaking nightmare.
Yeah.
So I think our first role is to educate the market, educate the people in order to take an informed decision. 100%.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of informed and thought leadership, you've written, La Biblia de las Franquicias. I hope that was pronounced correctly, which is a must-read in franchising. What inspired you to write it, and what's the biggest lesson from the book? To your point about educating. Can you share that? And,
You said
and hopefully our audience will read it.
You say in a Bible, everything there is important.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. I won't make you choose your favorite, but maybe a highlight or two. What inspired you, Fernando, and then a highlight or two
Exactly.
from the book?
I mean, what inspired me up is that again there is so many misconceptions about
Yeah.
franchising.
Yeah.
Franchising is so stigmatized, even in the States. But I like when someone tells me, "Oh, I don't believe in franchising." For me that's music to my ears.
Right.
Because
Okay.
I can convert them. So for me, it's about spreading the knowledge. And I think that, I mean, someone that will read any of my books, besides the technical stuff, for me, is more about understanding that we live in a world of possibilities.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this sounds like a cliche, but truly, truly, we live in a world of opportunities.
Love it. Music to our ears.
Yeah. Fernando, I'm going to take you to one of the other legs of your business, and that's about helping people, connecting them with capital, banks, PEs, and VCs. There has been an increase and inflow of PE and VC private equity interest in the franchise industry. When you take a look at what has been the evolution, can you share with us what have been the highlights of the entry of so many VCs and PEs there? And what are the downside, or what are things that have not gone well as a result of their entry?
That's a very big subject as well, Vinny. Something that is funny is that typically when an entrepreneur or a businessman or a woman or a franchisor talks to a franchise consultant, typically the franchise consultant doesn't know much about the private equity or the VC world.
Right.
So they tell us, why would you want, to take money from a third party if you can franchise? And if the franchisor or the business owner goes to a private equity or a VC guy, they typically don't know much about franchise either, and they're going to tell me, why would you want to franchise if you can actually raise money? But at the end of the day, what the statistics show, Vinny, is that the most powerful strategy in the world in terms of growing a business successfully is combining franchising with private equity or venture capital. So I think that space, that joint strategy is also in diapers, and I think that in the future, people are going to come to understand much more that at the end of the day, franchising and the PE and the VC world, they have one thing in common, which is value creation. So I think that the best way to approach value creation is understanding when to franchise and when to raise money.
Okay. And what great insights. Let's take it to some real deals and transactions, since we love that. So two very big investments. One closed, one announced. I'm not sure if it's actually happening. You saw the Jersey Mike's acquisition, right? $1 billion, right? And or that was what Jersey Mike's, I think, was maybe 8, or a big number. But however, what a lot of locations that brand's developed over 20 plus years, it's the white space for that brand. We've heard from some people, right, that there's still potential, to your point. And then Dave's Hot Chicken recently, $1 billion, and that has 200 plus units for the white space. So what do you think of those transactions? And do you agree that it is about the white space and the opportunity for those two brands, albeit them being at different stages? What's your take?
So I think that the example you gave about the chicken brand, which is, as you know, Dave's Hot Chicken, I think that's a very good example, because a brand with just 200 units, plus 800 in development, close to $1 billion. I mean, actually, it was around 900 million pounds, so over $1 billion. That just shows you, the power of franchising, So I think we are just seeing, the tip of the iceberg in this space.
Wow. Vinny, take us home.
Yeah. So, Fernando, if you look back these past 15 years, is that something you wish? I mean, if you had the chance to do it again, you would do it differently? If yes, what is it?
I would stay single. I wouldn't get married.
I
No,
thought
that's a joke. That's a joke.
your wife's
That's
your
a joke.
partner, isn't she? Isn't she the partner?
That's a joke. I'm a happy married man, and my wife is actually our CEO. So
Right.
that was a joke.
Right. I knew that.
No, no, to be honest with you, and this is maybe also gonna sound like a cliche, but my father used to say a phrase in Latin, which is finis coronat opus, which translates to the end. In Spanish sounds much better. El fin corona la obra, which is the end crowns
The work.
work.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And that basically is, trust the process. I think, today, even the younger generation, they are so focused, on the end result, on getting there. But you have to trust the process. You have to enjoy the journey.
And then Fernando, so which I share that with you, the need to enjoy the journey, to love what you do and do what you love, right? So
Yes.
to that extent, has there been, have you had failures
Of course.
in all of this, and what did you learn from the failure, and how is that shaping the way you do things today?
I think, one learn from, you don't learn from success. That's a lie. When you win, you get drunk. It's when you lose that you think about stuff, So I'm very proud. I'm more proud of my failures
Great.
than of my wins.
So many great lessons and inspiration. I was going to ask you your most valuable lesson, but I love that trust the process, right, and learn from your mistakes. We were with the Nigel Travis, former leader of Blockbuster, Papa John's, Dunkin', and he was so focused on what he learned at Blockbuster on technology that he applied it in his next roles, and
Exactly.
it's brilliant advice. We really enjoyed talking to you. We're so glad our paths crossed, and I think there's going to be a lot more in the future we can collaborate on. What do you think, Vinny?
Yeah, no doubt, Fernando. This is just the beginning. The continuation of the journey that we started from there in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. There's going to be more to that. But before you go, I have one more question for you.
Is it another big one?
No, a small one this time. So, Fernando, tell us. I know, yes, another baby most likely on the way for you and your wife, the CEO. Is there something? What is it that keeps you awake at night when you think of the work you're doing in different parts of the world with GNF? What keeps you awake at night, and why?
Okay, if that small question, I don't know.
I don't know what big is. Yeah.
But in short, Vinny, is just. I think there isn't enough time, to explore all the possibilities this world has to offer, So one would need to live many lives in order to truly explore the potential, of any venture. So, but that's not that, So.
Well, what a great way to inspire our audience for the possibility, right? Go after it, and franchising is a pathway for it.
Absolutely.
Gracias, Fernando.
Fernando, muchísimas gracias de todo corazón. Ay, muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you. Thank you.
We hope to host you here at Babson at the Tariq Freed Franchise Institute sometime and get you in front of some students. We'd love that.
We need you here. We need you here, Fernando.
All right, take care.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Stars of Franchising.
Stars of Franchising was produced at Babson College, engineered by Travis Gray. Karen Soa is our guest coordinator, and music by Ralph Taylor.
If you like Stars of Franchising, be sure to review us wherever you get your podcasts, and spread the word and share these stories any way you can.